in your capable hands. Hi everyone, I'm Jasmine Hoffman, the Head of Experience at Tech United. Today we have a very special treat. The team at Fulcrum Digital is sponsoring an incredible IT and Technologists Forum where they're going to tell us all about digital disruptions across industries due to COVID and beyond. And we are so thrilled that they've put together this incredible panel. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it right over to you, Rajesh, and let you give everyone your spiel. They should learn about you right from you. And I just want to encourage everyone listening to use the chat. Put your questions, comments, say where you're joining us from. Tell us who here you think has the greatest glasses, perhaps. Do whatever you want to do in the chat to be creative. And if you need anything, I'll be in the chat as well helping out. But I will turn it over to you for what I'm sure is going to be an excellent discussion. And thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you, Jasmine, and thank you, Tech United, for having us today. Appreciate it. Great. My name is Rajesh Sinha. I'm founder and chairman of Fulcrum Digital. Our company is into digital technology. We bring newer technologies in the mainstream and enables the customers with new features, new experiences. In our business, we have two parts of offering. One part is where we offer software as a service platform for small and medium enterprises. These are the SaaS products, software as a service platforms for food, supply chain, education, and finally, we have launched a new product called F1, which is across the industry. And our second part of the business is helping all the large corporations modernize their IT systems, and we become their IT partner. So these are our two offerings. And with that note, I'll stop introducing myself and Fulcrum here because we have a very well-known technologist and business leader from healthcare, insurance, and finance sector. And I'm very, very thrilled to have joined with them and moderate their session. So with that note, I would like to introduce our first guest today, Ian Worden. Ian Worden is CIO of Matrix Health Network. And I will turn over to you, Ian, for further introduction with our audience.
Great, thank you, Rajesh. Again, my name is Ian Worden. I'm with Matrix Medical Network. We are a company with a national network of clinicians, over 3,000 working across the country with employers, with health plans in the biopharma space. I've been in the healthcare sector for a little over 16 years, and prior to that in financial services, where I've been predominantly doing products and services, building those, and doing it in the position of CIO. Great.
And salute to you for your industry, you and your company for providing great service. We needed the most, and your industry and your companies have been providing excellent services to protect so many lives. So thank you for everything what you guys have done. Now I will turn over to Mohammed Kamal, who is the Senior Vice President at MasterCard. Mohammed, over to you.
Thank you, Rajesh. Yeah, this is Mohammed Kamal. I've been with MasterCard for some time. I'm a payments technologist by trade. I joined a while back from a small startup based here in the New York area. But I spent a good amount of time in the core business of MasterCard, focus on core card payments. Where my focus was really kind of digital transformation within kind of legacy technologies within the company. A little while back, I took a pivot into mergers and acquisitions, where I was focused on kind of acquiring companies and startups that sort of had the mission of disrupting everything that I'd spent the earlier part of my career building. And now I lead a division that now stitches together several of those acquisitions. So exciting stuff.
Great. Thank you to join this session today, Mohammed. Now let's turn to Richard In. He's the CTO of Everest Re. Richard, floor is yours.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Rajesh. I'm the Vice President and Chief Technology Officer for Everest Re Group. We're publicly traded property casualty insurance and reinsurance. We have maybe 2,500 people, the company altogether, across 25 offices around the world, Singapore to London, makes for a 7x24 operation. We're headquartered here in New Jersey, in Basking Ridge. I've been with the company about 7 years, and both on the application development side and on the technology infrastructure and in the leadership team for most of that time. And basically prior to that, I was I had my own software and systems integration company, and then going way back all the way to the early Silicon Valley days. So it's been a long ride. So,
absolutely fantastic.
Be here and talking to you guys today.
Excellent, excellent, great. I'm very excited. I think we'll have a great discussion, good mind share, and I'm hoping to get more questions from our audiences and then make it an interactive session. So the way we will conduct our session is we'll put it in two parts, right? The first part, we will talk about what happened in 2020 when pandemic hit us. We were all excited when the year started. I think in 2019, we had a great budget plan for 2020. We came with all the big bang approach, and then here it comes in February 2020, pandemic. And I think all of us were on the same boat, right? Crisis boat. And all of us reacted differently. Our industries reacted differently. So these are the times to go back and reflect how we reacted, what did we do, what worked, what didn't work, and that will be our first part of the discussion, right? Hopefully I'll get to our audience, and myself will hear some stories about your resiliencies and your success and stuff like that. Then we'll move into the second part where we will talk. Now we are entering into 2021, right? So going forward today, how are you thinking? You're doing a budgeting and planning for 2021. Your head will be around some newer technology, new opportunities. So what's on the forefront, what your companies are thinking. And that's where we'll debate about it and see if our audiences can have a takeaway from the session so that they can learn what is the common recipe out of all these three industries. Can they take away common technology platform, ideas, innovative approach, and they can implement in their businesses or think and munch on those ideas. So that could be our takeaway for the session. And with that note, I will start the first part of the session where I would like to go with the first question, maybe this time with Rich, you. How did you and your organization respond to the pandemic?
Yeah, insurance is a very traditional kind of industry. We've been around for 25 years, and it's typically office based, right? And so all of us technology folks, of course, know that working remotely is no new trick, right? But for a lot of folks, the sudden evacuation of our offices around the world was a big shock, right? And culturally, there's a lot going on there. Fortunately, from a technology perspective, we've been kind of preparing for this kind of scenario since Sandy, right? Superstorm Sandy in 2012, which actually knocked out a lot of our headquarters operations for more than a week, I think, right back then. And as sort of as a mandate ever since then, right? We've been building out layers and layers of resiliency, right? And alternate methods of working, right? In the basically to exactly handle this kind of scenario. Although we didn't think it would be a pandemic, right? But as it turned out, we were well prepared for it. So we transitioned our in our headquarters data center into a private cloud with Rackspace. Applications moved into Azure, and new applications moved into Azure and AWS. Really taking advantage of multi-cloud and PaaS kind of services. Actually, the part that really worked for us was that we basically got rid of desktops desktop PCs, maybe 3 years ago, right, we went to a policy of all laptops, right, for everyone, all new, basically all new joiners, and really all the refreshes became laptops. That worked out well. We implemented a Pulse Secure VPN with Duo multi-factor, and we actually we had a need for Amazon workspaces and VDI, right? So basically, desktop as a service, we got into it because we needed to better support our offshore operation. And, they were doing some crazy stuff with trying to, RDP into our data centers in New Jersey and stuff like that. And performance was horrible. So we ended up with a large adoption of Amazon workspaces. And then that became auxiliary kind of terminals for a lot of our workers around the world, right? So the that combined with Skype and Teams and WebEx, and actually we recently moved our phone system into the cloud too. So using Cloud PBX. And so even on the phones, people weren't dependent on the desk phone, extensions to do business. They could operate, virtually, using their laptops and using their mobile devices. So technology-wise, things were well prepared. What it ended up being was really supporting our users, and helping them make the transition to this new environment, getting their home configurations optimized. We did a lot of support for home internet routers and things like that, which we didn't expect to do. And actually, a lot of folks ended up needing to upgrade their ISP connections and the like. We had lots of people with 4 people at home, all continuously, on internet services, whether it be school or work or everything in between, talking to friends and relatives, and that worked out to be one of the larger issues, was really helping our people transition to a new work environment, and doing that really around the world, right? Which we don't necessarily have support staff.
Absolutely. So good takeaways. I think what I heard is Sandy that gave a big shocker and helped you guys on the track of bringing a business continuity plan. And since then, you guys evolved, matured, and then brought in all these, technologies. So it wasn't like in the year of 2020 you acquired those technologies. You were already on that path. I think 2020 helped you accelerate that and implement it faster.
Yeah, and it absolutely stress tested, all of the technology that we had brought in, and we did, we found that we did need to, upgrade certain network connections and things like that, right? We changed the way we do patching, right? Because there was an assumption in the way we managed the laptops that they would periodically connect to the LAN. Mm-hmm. And suddenly, the machines aren't connecting to the LAN for 6 months, right? So that became an issue, and I we learned a lot, I think, about an operation, like in terms of you need to do provisioning, onboarding, offboarding, right? And maintenance and all that kind of stuff, and that's different when everybody is remote, right? Including the technicians, right? And including our engineers, right? So I think at this point we've actually eliminated a lot of those dependencies, right? Where we sort of assume that people would connect at some point, right? I think identity management is also in that vein. Basically, we are removing those assumptions, so it's just on the notion that people can be remote for extended periods, if not forever.
Mm-hmm. Great. And in pandemic, you don't know all the solutions, so you have to get in, figure out, and we get it. I think everybody had that issue. We had that issue as well in the first week. how to support those employees and the bandwidth, all of a sudden in the first week you got hit with that. So coming to Ian on this same topic, was similar story like Rich, where you guys were already on your way to modernize everything, go virtual, or you were already virtual, matured in their virtual working process? What stage you were in when pandemic hit you, and how did you react?
Yeah, for us, Rajesh, it was a little bit unique because we're in the healthcare space and we're actually heavily participating in the response to COVID-19. And so at the end of 2019, we had put together a multi-year replatforming, moving to the cloud, moving off-premise space, moving onto the Microsoft stack and Azure, onto Dynamics, et cetera. So we had a fairly sophisticated core business migration plan that was approved at the end of the year. And then, of course, in March of 2020, the pandemic hit, and a couple things happened for us. One is our core business involves sending nurses into people's homes, and there came a point where that was unsafe to do. And so we had to pivot our core business to telehealth literally in a matter of days. And so we had to spin up an alternate delivery mechanism on telehealth on our core business. And at the same time, there was significant demand and need for employers, large employers, to get help managing their workforce and keeping them safe and keeping their facilities productive. And so we actually simultaneously had to build up support for a new business unit that grew rapidly. And so between the migration to the cloud, the pivot that was needed for the core business and establishing the new business unit, it became pretty substantial number of activities that had to be coordinated. But we faced many of the same things that were mentioned by Richard. I'm sure Mohammed will talk about here as well, from transitioning people who were corporate to work from home, provisioning for them on the VPN, creating bandwidth and capacity, keeping them productive, to us to really enabling the business strategy dynamically and faster, leveraging Scrum and DevOps, and really being able to move in an agile way to support all of these aspects that we have going on simultaneously. So a lot of the same challenges, Richard, plus we had some unique challenges that come with just being in the healthcare space and having clinicians who are working with COVID. We've done tens of thousands of COVID tests, supporting employers, large employers and workforces. So it became pretty taxing for us. And quite honestly, we're not out of the woods yet. We still have a lot to get done to get us through this.
Absolutely. And you had to keep the lights on. You had to fight the battle. And then what I heard from you is the new line of business emerged. New challenges came in, and I think it leads into business strategy. I think your business model was sending nurse at home. Now you had to do the telehealth, right? And virtual servicing. So that created a new line of business. So reacting to that, offering the new platform, I can understand. So I think we heard the technology evolution, how it helped Rich and challenges he faced. We learned from your perspective in healthcare side, how the new businesses and new opportunity presented to you, and that came along with the challenge too. Now let's get to the financial sector, and in Mohammed's world, how did you react? Do you correlate with some of the similar stories what Rich and Ian had shared, or you face some totally new challenges or new opportunities?
Sure, yes. So I think to some degree, we all face very similar challenges, right? The culture here at MasterCard generally supported the work from home environment fairly well. So I want to say that, although I remember being on a call with Fulcrum, a couple of weeks before things shut down and kind of planning deployment of laptops and hotspots. Generally, if I were to grade my own homework, I think that side of the IT rollout went well, right? And it continues to be upgraded as we kind of move into sort of prolonged work from home phase. Where the majority of my focus really was on the changes on the customer side and the customer pain points, right? Because nobody wakes up in the morning wondering how they're going to pay for something. Me as a payments geek, I do, but very few people, aside from me, actually worry about that. But when the pandemic struck, what you had was people thinking about payments, thinking about, do I really want to take cash back from a cashier, right? Do I want to hand my card back do I want to hand my card to a cashier? And if I do, am I dousing it in hand sanitizer when I take it back. So now they're thinking about what is out there in terms of online payments, what is out there in terms of contactless payments, right? That contactless payment terminal that I've ignored every time I've gone into a grocery store, maybe I will inquire about contactless payments and mobile payments. So it was an interesting change, and it was a change that I think we were well prepared for, because we were, our strategy has been sort of a war on cash for quite a while. And we've been rolling out sort of contactless payments for some time, but working alongside our customers to pivot as rapidly as they needed to pivot. And you saw it as a matter of survival for our customers, right? The diners and merchants that were able to quickly adopt a mixed journey payment where somebody would be paying online, picking up in store, they were able to open quicker than other merchants that weren't able to adapt, right? So we spent a lot of time working with regulators, local regulators, working with our customers to help them transition that period. And some of the things that come to mind were, a lot of people had vacation and travel booked, right? And then airlines were canceling flights, things were in limbo, and then you have a wave of disputes that are raised on cards. And as kind of custodians of the ecosystem, we're left to try balancing between fairness between the merchant and the consumer, and reacting to that type of dilemma. Or even something like contactless payments, typically they were reserved for low value payments. But when we're seeing a surge of volume, people trying to abandon cash and use contactless payments, we very quickly reached out to regulators in different countries and up those limits so that people can kind of safely transact in the way that they felt comfortable. Obviously with balancing the risk, the risk in there. So, it was a challenging, interesting time, but I think it was just that journey alongside our customers, helping them pivot their roadmaps, pivot their products as quickly as we both could move. I think was the part that I found most intriguing with COVID, and I continue to find intriguing because it hasn't stopped.
Absolutely. So a couple of things to echo on your points. We have another division called Red Stage. They do e-commerce, and we could see a surge in tremendous growth in the e-commerce business all of a sudden, right? When the pandemic hit, everybody wanted to go online, do the transaction online and stuff like that. You brought in a very interesting point. You saw a trend changing because of COVID, right? Travel, entertainment, all of a sudden shows were canceled, travels were canceled. So from payment side, I'm taking this thread to the insurance industry now. And coming back to you, Rich, that when you saw the travel flights are getting canceled, travel industry is getting hit, did it impact your insurance sector, whether your travel business went down, or did you see in insurance sector travel went down, some other sector of insurance went up? What was the impact because of the consumer behavior in insurance sector?
Yeah, there were certain products that we had that were impacted by the turmoil. We have an event cancellation product, right? And of course we had to take some claims from that. But overall, we're a property and casualty insurer, and I think the hit from the claims resulting from COVID was it was there, but it was not that substantial.
Great.
Yeah.
So if we had to go back in time, right? And this question is open for any one of you. You can jump in and start that, right? If you go back in time and now you're in month of February and March, you already know what you did with having this experience. And if you have to go back in time and then in February and draw a business continuity plan or make the change of some technological direction or implement new ideas, what do you think you would do differently this time, the way you did?
Yeah, so I can take a stab at that. I mean, one thing we would do is really make no assumptions about the network and how you connect to the mothership, right? we did end up scrambling to upgrade certain network links, right? And there were definitely some things we had to fix as far as video and audio quality, right? Especially when we're talking about long latency links and stuff like that. That became critical, right? When everybody had to be working from home. Actually, the other thing that's interesting is the phenomenon that we've noticed, and I've seen this in the press too, but we've experienced it firsthand, is just escalating level of cyber attacks, right? And we have seen so many attempts, right? The number of attempts has dramatically increased, and the bad hats are using increasingly sophisticated, social engineering and technical means to spearfish and to try to get through our perimeters. I think we're taking a lot of steps right now to really fortify our defenses, right? And that was I don't really understand why that would increase, in a work from home scenario, other than do people have more time to do bad things? but without a doubt, there's been an increase in the level of cyber attacks, attempts that has been very apparent.
So that's great. So coming to Ian on that part, when I asked what could have been done differently, you mentioned you had a new business opportunity, new kind of a trend which emerged from the consumer, and employers were demanding new set of applications, new set of services. You had to deliver the virtual telehealth. You reacted when the business opportunity presented. Now you already know what came in. Do you think today you would have done differently so that you could proact and have better outcomes?
It's interesting for us. First, I just want to go back, and I had similar challenges with Richard. Like, we obviously had to do some of the blocking and tackling. If I had to do that again, whether it's bandwidth, whether it's configuring our VPN to be multi-path, multi-homed, so we can get more stability, more reliability out of it. Certainly, in hindsight, I would have focused on that. The telehealth thing is interesting because the type of work that we do for the health plans, telehealth was not allowed under Medicare Advantage, an allowed method. And so there was really nothing in advance to provision for in that regard because it wasn't allowed. But obviously the circumstances of COVID-19 mandated that. And so there was a temporary waiver issued. And then that put us on, more in the reactionary mode. So on that particular one, I don't know that we could have been more prepared. But I do think the one thing that I'm thinking about as we go forward is just really understanding, making sure we have the right mix of partners. As we look at a combination of custom development applications versus software as a service versus platform as a service, right? Giving ourselves more option to be more dynamic and improve our speed to market. And that's one thing I'll be more cognizant of, is just making sure we've got, it's one thing to have a business continuity plan that checks all the boxes. It's another in time of crisis, right, to have autonomy within that plan to really deal with the unknown. And so I think on that front, continuing to look at kind of our ecosystem of partners and solutions to give us just a little bit more autonomy, to respond in times of crisis, I think is something I'll be a little bit more diligent about.
Excellent. Anything else triggers in your mind, Mohammed?
I mean, I think all of those, everything there just resonates. The increase in cyber attacks. To be fair, I didn't quite correlate that when the world stops, cyber attacks just immediately ramp up. I think there's a cyber criminals already, despite I think that not being the focus of most people. So I think that is something that we discovered and continue to see, just higher sophistication of attacks on our perimeter. So I think that is definitely a lesson learned, and I think just gearing your staff and teams to be aware of that instead of kind of seeing it trickle in would definitely be a lesson learned. I think the business continuity, everybody has business continuity processes, and I think ours worked as they should. But I think just seeing this play out, you now need to kind of go through a lot more wargaming for scenarios like this, right? And I think seeing the difference between readiness on paper and being actually able to execute some of these things, and just looking within my own organization, what was kind of theoretical readiness versus people that were executing immediately. I see areas where you definitely kind of bring back some of that wargaming just to make sure that the business continuity is at the forefront of people's minds.
Absolutely. The whole world trend changed, right? It was all of a sudden, anytime, anywhere, any room, you can work from your bedroom, living room, kitchen room. So the whole format had changed all of a sudden, right? And as Rich said, that so many people at home accessing the bandwidth. So I think it we have like thousands of employees. So all of a sudden from 10 offices, we became 1,000 office company. And we had to make sure that we provide everything from infrastructure to all the tools and technology so that guys can deliver and service customers like yourself. Okay, so seems like we have some questions. So I'm okay to take some questions and make this session interactive.
Hey, Rajesh, can I interrupt? I just want to reinforce one of the points that Ian made, right? We did also engage all of our partners, right, to and look at our ecosystem two things, right? One is we needed to make sure that they could still be providing services, right? And so we went through the exercise of basically checking in with everybody, right? But also to understand if there were things we should do together, right, to basically weather the storm, right? And so I think that's a great point that Ian made, right? And that we felt was important as well.
Absolutely. So Yessi, if you are on the call, can you just bring the question up here, please? Yessi or Jasmine, are you there? Yep. Go ahead, raise the question here. Yessi, are you there? Can you share the question?
I think she's on mute. Oh, there she goes.
Sorry, everyone. I tried to raise the question. Ria Gush, it looked like you had a question, and then just disappeared.
Okay.
Not a worry. If I get Ria back online, I will make sure that she gets her question in. You gentlemen will please continue.
All right, great. Okay, so now let's get into, do you have a story? I think we all deal with every day with plethora of technology. In the beginning, Rich, you talked about multi-cloud. Ian was talking about when situation like this come in, he wants to be more prepared. He wants to respond faster and have the right eco partner and business platform strategy, better agility to respond back, right? So you guys had all these plethora of technologies. Mohammed talked about the change of business trends, consumer behavior, new way of doing payment transaction. Would you guys like to pick one example from your industry and say that when these challenges hit us, this was the power of technology, and you guys didn't have to buy new things, you just had to leverage the power of technology and solve some problems for your customers, and that became a great example. So anything flashes in your mind which our audience would like to, we can enlighten our audience with that answer?
Sure. I can go, Rajesh.
Okay, go ahead, Mohammed.
Yeah, so I think the main thing that stood out to me was the power of data during the pandemic, right? Because everybody's model of 2020 was no longer relevant, right? What happens in different parts of the year, what your business cycle looks like, it didn't make sense, and the model had to kind of be revamped. And I think that the best way to evaluate that was to just have access to real-time data and insights. And I really saw that stand out as we worked with government regulators to look at things like, the effectiveness of stimulus, right? When you look at data like bill payments, mortgage payments, rent, you can actually see how, the delta between when people receive their bills and pay their bills, to get a gauge of our consumers struggling. And then as you deploy stimulus into the economy, how well the economies are reacting, right? Because you're essentially having to build new models on the fly. So I saw the power of data, go a long way. And then as things started to recover in certain areas, and as we saw recoveries were very regional and local, being able to understand what that recovery pattern looked like, because there's no guarantee that recoveries go back to the way they were before the pandemic. And obviously we're seeing new patterns emerge, right? We're seeing, as travel returns, we're seeing new travel patterns where you kind of see this hyper localization, people very, focused on, local tourism, local shopping, smaller chains versus kind of big, large hotel chains. So just understanding what the new reality looks like has been eye-opening. I think it's helped to work alongside our partners to be able to share those insights and data.
Fantastic. I think I picked up the trend of data and hyper-localization. I think those two things caught my attention, Mohammed, with this. And, these are the segue into our next segment, which is, unless on this thread, if Rich and Ian, if you want to make any comment, I'll take your feedback and then move into a next segment, which I feel we can take this topic of data and hyper-localization and start building our future and what's running in our mind. But I'll pause for a minute and see what's running in your mind on this topic.
Yeah, I would just say, I think it's a great point, Mohammed, that we saw the same thing, like being able to leverage data for insights to drive actions and reactions to what was happening. So redeploying our analytics to really adjust for the market change became pretty critical. So for us, for example, allowing clinicians back into homes of people was really a geography, a zone by zone, a zip code by zip code, community by community decision. And so being able to dynamically understand that, predict that, determine when it's safe to go back and transition out of telehealth back to in-home, and then in some cases back to telehealth, being able to build that out quickly and leverage data to understand consumption patterns and to predict, being able to redeploy that for the unique circumstances was really critical to being able to, quickly roll with the impacts of COVID-19. So I think I would just kind of second that viewpoint that data became really foundational to helping navigate.
Excellent.
Yeah, just that in our case, it's still data related, but in probably a different way. Having all of our records online, as opposed to in paper or in files or things like that, really enabled us to keep going without missing a beat, right? And I think that our ability to respond to new submissions and the like, really didn't change because all the information that the underwriters needed, right, was just as much at their fingertips as it was when they were in the office, right? And so I think we were able to actually pick up business in the emergency, right, as opposed to losing it.
Fantastic. So I think with this analysis, what I'm concluding and having a common recipe from all your three industries, how you guys reacted, what came out, I'm taking on an x-axis certain points, which is data, cloud, personalization, response time, how to respond quickly. And these are the pointers which are the current takeaways. And also the underlying theme has been business platform, a platform as a strategy when we talk cloud or platform. So that has been the readiness, and I think you guys would like to be more proactive and well prepared to respond back if anything comes in the future. With that note, let's move to the next part of our discussion, which is future, right? A lot of pundits, they talk about many shapes of recovery. I don't even know all these alphabets: V shape, U shape, L shape, K shape. Somebody taught me the other day there is a tub shape. The U is a long, bed, so that becomes a tub shape, which I didn't know earlier. But anyways, I'm runner. I like simple language. That's my job. Take the complex technology, make it simple, make it meaningful to the audience, and that's what we love to do. So if I take the runner's analogy, not those alphabet analogy, and say crawl, walk, jog, run kind of a concept, right? Where are we today? And I know, Rich, you are a runner with me, and we have run so many races together. So what stage we are today in the month of October? Our business is it crawling? Is it walking? Do you see at what, or do you see it as jogging? If you don't see it jogging and running, at what stage do you see we'll be getting into that phase? And that's the first part of the question. And then as we go, as you see next year coming to your businesses, what are the new technologies running in your mind which you would like to bring in first into your game so that you have that unique advantage, or you are a differentiator, or a path to be a disruptor? Because if you are not disruptor or innovating, you will get disrupted. So first part is, what is the trend would you see from crawl, walk, jog, run kind of a sprint kind of concept? And second part is, what kind of technology is running in your mind? Because our audience today wants to learn where they should invest, where the opportunity exists. So for this time, I would like to go, Ian, if you have a take on this topic first.
Sure. As far as how the pandemic's going to play out and what shape it's going to take, I'm really fortunate in an interesting position. We're working with very large consulting organizations, who are knee deep in this topic. We're actually supporting clinical trials for COVID vaccine. And honestly, as I sit on the technical side of things and really having a responsibility to enable business strategy, however dynamic it may be, and really be an accelerator of growth, what I've taken out of that forecast is we don't know. We just don't know. And I think understanding and embracing that ambiguity for us and for my team is really helpful in the sense that we really have to hedge on the fact that we don't know. And so we want to make sure it's not just technology, but certainly I mentioned platform as a service, so we can do more configuration over custom builds, so we can respond more quickly. But it's also in DevOps, and it's in Scrum, and it's the ability to administer and synthesize and prioritize and move requirements quickly so that you can be in a better position to enable. So I don't think you can discount the fact that we're more virtual today, that you have to lead differently, that you have to lean into people and systems. And then, of course, you obviously, from a technology perspective, in my opinion, because of the ambiguity about how this will play out, whether we'll have a vaccine in the fall, whether that'll fall into the first year, how long it will be to be distributed, whether you'll need 1 dose or 2 doses, whether it will mutate and you'll need to do it again in the fall. There's so many unknowns there. I think it's really difficult to lock in on a given one. And so for us, we've just tried to adopt the fact that we're going to have to move quickly. And so how do you organize this confluence of people, process, and technology so that we can respond quickly more than predict better? So that's a little bit of a philosophy I've adopted in the absence of this. Again, I get the insight of a lot of different views on this, clinical views, a lot of medical views. And as somebody who's not a clinician, I walk away just feeling like the real answer is we don't know. And if you don't know, what can you be doing to deal with that ambiguity? And that's really how I've prepared our organization.
Yeah, so I'll give one thought. When you were answering that, one thought came in my mind that healthcare professionals, they have been taking care of all the COVID patients, so they were the true doctors, the true heroes of our community. But we are also IT doctors, being IT professionals, right? We are IT doctors. That's how I think I call ourselves. And what's our responsibility? Our responsibility is that while medical professionals are taking care of patients' health, we should be taking care of the business health, because this pandemic not only hit public health, but it also hit business health. And business health is powered by the technology, right? So as we go into next year, we need to make sure we have a better immune system. And that's why you guys are talking about people, process, and technology. How do we put it together with platform strategy so that your business can be mapped with your platform, So in no time, you can go live and you can respond to your new demands, right? So that's what I'm hearing. So that's truly powerful. And that's what a good doctor does. So that's why we are IT doctor. We got to think about how do we respond in future. So now, if now I go to my insurance doctor.
Yeah. So I think what I'm seeing is that, we look. I think that the pandemic has clearly changed a lot of viewpoints, right, about how we work together, right? And what I'm seeing is that there's a need for tools, or actually, we actually probably already have the tools. It's really taking advantage of them, right, to facilitate stronger collaboration, workflow, and orchestration, right? So, where if in a traditional office you can walk over and just get something done, right? It's not that model, right? Isn't gonna work so well anymore when folks are dispersed all over the place. Then frankly, I'm in the office today. I mean, some people are going to be coming back to the office, right? A lot of people are going to be here less often than they were before, right? And we need to be able to basically have folks work together just as strongly in a distributed, remote kind of setup as they did when they were all co-located, right? And so we've had Teams in place for Microsoft Teams in place for a long time, and it's only been sort of a casual adoption over the years, and I think we're going to much more strongly adopt it, take advantage of the more advanced features of it, and things like that. I think along the lines of orchestration and process workflow, we are looking to leverage, again, tools we already have, right, that we've implemented in limited ways, but in our case, ServiceNow, right, to really facilitate workflows through the organization for a lot more or a wider range of service requests, right? And so, where a lot of things were done informally before, right, we're going to make the effort to capture exactly how things are done, right, in a ServiceNow workflow, and that that the governance and the compliance and the approvals and all that kind of stuff are baked into the request. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff there to basically make and optimize a business operation that is now working with people wherever. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what takeaway I have from you is you said automation, collaboration. So better productivity with employees, whether offline, online, with the power of technology, right? So how do you leverage those power so you can extract? So I think the one word comes in my mind with everything what you said is automation. How do you automate, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then when Ian mentioned about people, process, technology, integration, so another one word comes in my mind is platform, right? So who is looking at a platform kind of a thinking? You're looking at automation as a mantra as we go into the next year. And, what's running in your mind, Mohammed, and in your fintech world and financial sector, what do you see coming up, and how would you react? What would you bring on the table?
Sure. So I think my crystal ball is no more accurate than Ian's, but yeah, you see sort of trends, right? So I think something that's refreshing is businesses are still willing to spend and further their. So it hasn't fully shut down. I think businesses that have been around for a while and have gone through crises before see that they can't kind of just stop executing against their long-term strategy during the pandemic, and they continue to kind of make hedge bets and progress their roadmap. So that's refreshing. Mm-hmm. But the pattern and the way that happens is changing, right? So certainly the second half of 2020, I anticipate going into 2021, businesses may be less willing to make large bets on particular products or investments, and they may kind of try before you buy approach, or proof of concept, something that enables them to ascertain the value before they commit to something, or continue progressing their roadmap before they can fully execute. So we are starting to see those patterns and trying to tailor our product offerings to be able to adapt for that. Right? You might have a customer say, I fully understand that you're offering me APIs that I'm supposed to integrate within my own application, but can you build the application for me, or can you host a white label application until we can pull this back into our own application? Conversations of that nature, which I think present new opportunities and changes in our business model. But so we're seeing that change in behavior, with businesses. Consumer spend, it's very finicky, right? I think it's hard. You can't underestimate the impact of stimulus fund on consumer spend. So that tends to go up and down fairly rapidly. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see how that looks like going to the end of the year, early next year. But the trend that I'm kind of most interested in, it's very personal to myself and team, is just what the return to office plan looks like, because I think there isn't really a real precedent, right? What is that? It's very easy it's relatively easy for the whole workforce to kind of go home, but how do you then introduce people back into the workforce in a hybrid model and be productive and allow the people that are in office to benefit from being in office without introducing too much risk? What are the collaboration tools that allow kind of that hybrid working, right? So we're experimenting with sort of these virtual whiteboard concepts, ways to enable that gradual hybrid return, and fully accepting that the return may always be a hybrid, right? And allowing for that, but be productive and really increase productivity. I think leverage some of the benefits of the pandemic and bake them into our kind of a new work environment. So I haven't seen a model. I think there's a lot of speculation. I haven't seen a model, and it's interesting to try to be part of trying to shape that return to office model.
Great. So I'll conclude what I understood from all three of you as a recap, and then we'll get into a question. I think Yessi has a few questions, so we'll get questions from the audience. So once again, I reiterate from Ian, platform strategy, from Rich, automation, and what I understood from you, Mohammed, is people, human asset, how do we make them into hybrid mode and more productive? So maybe there is another question triggering in my mind. It's related to culture. So I'll come back on that culture and we'll discuss that. But these 3 points makes great sense as a part of our future roadmap. So Yessi, back to you. What's the question? Hi, Nipunika. How are you?
Oh, good. Hi, how are you?
Doing very good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about pivots, right? Mm-hmm. Making a pivot based on the challenges and things like that. So when you go through a pivot, how do you communicate those changes to the business model or the services to your current clients or even new clients that are looking for those type of services? How do you, and then within your organization, how do you do the training, the support model? How do you manage all of those in such a fast pace?
Okay. Is that question directly to me or to anybody else?
To anybody. I mean, I would love to hear from the insurance perspective. Okay. Ian talked about the pivot, transferring from the in-person model to the telemodel. So you had to go through some sort of training, right? And some sort of the services agreements and things like that. The new vendor product now you had to work with. So how did you go through all of that in such a fast time and begin the service?
Great question.
Thank you.
All right. So who will start, Rich or Ian? That's where the question is directed.
Sure. So I think there's no formula to do that. Basically, it really is just you have to engage, right? All the stakeholders, right, and tackle the new situation, right? There's I've never spent so much time in front of a screen, and I've been doing this for a long time. Basically, most of the time, as opposed to spreadsheets and PowerPoints, right, was really working with our teams and our partners to devise new ways to approach things, right, and to figure out, what training people needed to get, right, and how quickly could we line up the resources, right, and things like that to basically, affect the transition, right. So, but I'm not sure there's any secret sauce to that, right, other than just get on the calls and hash it out.
Yeah, and just to add, even when we work with any client and client makes those kind of rapid and quick changes, right? The change is not only in the IT system, it's a change what happens all across the cycle of the business, right? And that's what you are saying, that you can make a quick change in the IT system, but it has a complete life cycle management from business, right? That's when Ian said earlier, he wants to have an eco partner in place. Cannot depend on one vendor or his one product or one thought process, because you never know what business opportunity will present to you. And you don't have a time for 6 months to build something. You don't even have a time to buy something so fast, right? So you have to innovate things. So innovation is the language I will speak. You will be constantly present. You will be presented with new ideas all the time. And you have to have an ability to respond back to the new ideas. Innovation lab cannot take idea for 4 weeks and 6 weeks. You have to have an ability to deliver it in 2 weeks, not proof of concept, but proof of value, proof of delivery, that these things can work. And the moment you go into proof of delivery, that's when your business process change also happens, which is the toughest part. It's easy to change IT system, changing the business, monetizing takes the daunting task in this kind of stuff. And I would give you the mantra, we can bring everything together, but it all flows from the top. The guys who are leading the business, they are the owners. If they are change driven, everything will go down smoothly. You can plug the right system, you can change the business process. So the top management commitment towards the new business opportunity is the main point. So that's where I'll leave my thought. Ian, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I think similar to what you've said, the frequent communications, internally, this is why, Scrum and DevOps, it allows for more opportunity to dynamically interact and prioritize and make sure the right work is being conducted. So, as was said here, there's no secret sauce, but I just think the frequency, leveraging systems, process forums, end-ups, communication flowing, be as transparent as you can as a leader, and just make the best decision.
Yeah, I will say, to Ian's making me think about it now, that applying the principles of Agile, right, to this, rapidly developing scenarios, right, or situations, right, really was the way to go, right? In terms of, you don't have time to, you never have complete information. There's so much up in the air, right? And Agile really, Agile methodologies really handle that a lot better.
So I hope you got some of the answer, Nipunika.
Yes, I did. Yes. So can I do a quick follow up?
Okay, go ahead.
So you talked about innovating and the transparency, but then how do you stay in front? Say if I'm a third-party vendor and I am working on these alternative solutions, how do I stay transparent to potential customers. So when the time comes, like COVID happened, now I'm looking for a solution that allows my for certain things for my employees. How I want to be in front of my clients so that they know that I'm
Sure. I think your screen froze.
that
Okay.
I'm.
All right, great follow-up question. So I'll give you one takeaway, and then I would request you to stay back because everything you have asked, and as you would have heard from me, I'm extracting different pointers. And towards the end of the session, when I will plot everything in the graph, you might get your answer more clearly articulated. But I will give you the answer for this question, what you asked. Innovation is not a one-time thing. If you are thinking that one time you innovate and your customer can see that and be transparent about it, that's not the process. That's the recipe for disaster. The recipe for success is innovation lab creation, which has a maturity model where you continuously bring new ideas to your lab, continuously deliver, and your culture of innovation is based on fail fast culture. Success is going to be very less. So as long as you are transparent with your customer that you have a fail fast culture, customer will trust you and they will know out of 5 ideas, only 2 will succeed, 3 will fail. They will say, okay, Niponika, what is that idea succeeding? This one? I will take a bet on that with you. Make sense? But
Yes.
hold on to more of your questions, great questions. And once we extract the idea for this session is that take the perspective from all the 3 leaders, and plot it in a graph and share it with you guys towards the end. What is the method for disruption in 2021? And what should be the takeaway for all the audience today so that all the time they have given to us, we can give back some pointers so that they can enjoy their growth or take some mantras from this session. So thank you for your question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yesi, one more question because we have some follow-up question in our own conversation. So I'll take one more question if you have one.
Of course. So we have an audience member, Vimesh, who would like to know if you had predicted COVID-19, what would you do differently?
I think that question was already addressed. I think I had a session on the topic there. There were 3-4 points we addressed on that. Perhaps Vimesh should have joined a little later. So let him stay on the call. And when I conclude the point, that point can be reiterated and his answers, his question will be taken care. So I did see in the chat, one person wanted to hold my discussion on the culture aspect, right? And I wanted to, so is that person interested in bringing the question back online? Then I would like to take that because that's a nice thread for our next discussion.
Of course, so that audience member was Vera Lentini, and she just wanted to hear more about culture generally.
Okay.
And how you were able to implement culture in a digital world.
Excellent. So I'll go back to Mohammed because Mohammed brought in a very interesting point. He said that, how to bring in a hybrid model of working. How do we bring people back at work? How do we make sure we give them the right tools to collaborate when they are in premises? I will take this question to another thread. You said how we will work with the power of tools and technology, but I'll draw your attention, Mohammed, towards culture, right? So before COVID or during COVID, we all witnessed change in culture, work culture, behavior, new norm has evolved. How do you think this new culture is different than the culture which we all practice? Do you think culture will play a role in 2021 to respond with the newer technologies and respond to the business faster? And what's the role of a culture in future? Mohammed, to you.
Sure. So, yeah, I think there's absolutely a cultural transformation happening in the workforce. And I think it's bringing a lot of changes that were long overdue. And I'm sure this is talked about in other sessions, but I think for the longest time, it's been the vast majority of the workforce has kids at home, pets, and it was sometimes essentially taboo to have kind of that background noise or that kind of that personal side show up in a business setting. I think COVID has essentially brought the meshing of the personal to business forums in a way where people are a lot more tolerant of that. And what that does, I think it allows working parents, working mothers, I think hopefully a more comfortable existence in the modern workforce. And with that, I'm also seeing kind of the impact that, especially in areas here like New York or London, where a good portion of my team is, where people have very long commutes. There's an element where people, there's time reclaimed with people not spending that much time on the road, and what's happening with that time, what's happening with that headspace that people are gaining, right? And what I'm experimenting with my team is to kind of try capturing some of that headspace, that clarity, to foster innovation within the team. Right? So a lot of creativity happens in person, and that can't be denied. And now, if people aren't interacting the same way in person, how do you now kind of set up innovation challenges, things that can kind of capture that the clarity people may have in a slightly more relaxed working environment, but to put it to good, I think, to good use within the business. So early indicators have been fairly positive. I think we've seen it as inspiring, motivational for people in the workforce to kind of participate in more of these internal innovation challenges. But we'll see how it plays out. Maybe the next Propelify, I can tell you what worked or not.
Very good. What's your take, Ian, on culture aspect?
Yeah, I mean, very similar to what was just said. There's no question that the dynamics are a little bit different. What's acceptable now, more casual dress, the social distractions that we talked about are definitely part of the landscape now. But I think the other thing that's happened is I think COVID's caused everyone to kind of reflect on what's important, and in their life, as the mortality of and the gravity of COVID-19 has really kind of caused, I think, everyone to kind of step back. And I think there's an opportunity to culturally tap into that, right, and find the right work-life balance, and then also to bring purpose, to the work and the workforce, and really try to gravitate more to intrinsic motivation of the workforce, right, helping people keep their work meaningful, bring a degree of autonomy to the work, allowing for a sense of progress, and ultimately, building a sense of competence with the workforce. So I do think beyond, some of those more obvious things like the casualness, the work from home, the video component of that, there's really an opportunity to kind of re-engage the workforce around, what's important, and how to connect them to that work. So that's a little bit about culturally and what's in front of us.
I think all of a sudden we all have seen across the world the change, and humans have this second nature to adopt and adapt. And we take some time, but we all fall in place in the new way of thinking and aligning. And this has been the biggest lesson worldwide, right? I was more pro for people working from office. It took me quite some time. And today I'm almost ready that the world is going to be virtual, and we have to live with this norm. And I think I still believe that hybrid world will be there tomorrow, not completely work from home and completely in the office. So there will be hybrid norm maybe for a few years. So that's what we're going to live, and people are ready. World is ready for that. So Rich, what's your take on the work culture front?
So the key word for me is flexibility, right? I think employees have always wanted flexibility, right? And I think the whole question of balancing work and personal life and social life and stuff has it has always been tension between those habits, right? And I think what COVID is bringing about is a change in management attitudes, right, about what's really important, right? And so, not to mention how important is office real estate and the like, but especially in the interaction between people. I think that, and I know in the insurance business, very traditional business, has a very strong office culture. I think that it has moved perceptibly, following this pandemic, right? And I don't think it's going back, right? So there will be there's a need for people to get together, right? But the thing is, the need for it to be 8 hours a day during a certain, set window, right? And the like, I think, that need is really dissipated, right? So it's really much more about, striking the right balance, gaining the flexibility, and for all of us to realize that you can be just as productive, if not more, with that flexibility in place.
Great. So far we have captured on x-axis data, automation. On y-axis, we have put the platform, and I'm discovering the z-axis, right? So let's talk about newer technologies, right? There are a lot of talk about mixed reality, virtual reality, voice coming into our businesses, AI. To me, I think this is going to be commodity. Today it's there. Everyone has to live with AI. It's a new norm of database and behavior analysis. How do you use it and make money out of it? That's the game every business has to play. So assuming AI, having the mixed reality and experiences, new way of delivering the value to your customers, where do you see new technologies coming in 2021 in your sectors? There are a lot of new technology, but what do you think? What all the new technology will just give a trigger or put you guys on exponential growth or give you significant growth?
I'll start it. For us, I think it's going to be on the data front. It's going to be an artificial intelligence, the ability to predict outcomes, to predict interventions. I just see us kind of heavily leaning into better leveraging of data for those purposes. So I think that's probably the most prominent thing for us personally in 2021.
Data. So data is the takeaway.
We're working with AI in our new submissions process, right? So basically, the upfront discrimination of the kinds of risks that we're interested in, right? Versus things that we're not interested in, or things that we would redirect to other areas or other partners. And so there's a lot of work going on to basically automate that first step, right, of figuring out whether a new submission is of interest to us or not. But I think where we see it going is increasingly up the value chain there, right? As far as being able to ultimately get to underwriting without human intervention. I mean, straight through processing has been a term of art in our business for a long time, right? Where so either a claim or a new submission application comes in, and we can process it without having to have human hands or eyes interact with it. I think that's clearly where things are going, right? And as far as following underwriting rules and things like that, the AI can do that with exacting precision.
Good. So got from Ian data prediction. From you, what I learned was intelligent automation. Take the intelligence, but also take the business process and optimize it and make it automated, right? So intelligent automation from your side, prediction from Ian's side. Mohammed, what's your take on this?
I think they both brought up some very important accelerators. Data I brought up earlier is incredibly powerful in the future. So I won't repeat that point, but on the point of AI, I think there's a lot of doom and gloom talk about AI and putting people out of jobs, and I look, maybe I have a little bit more of a positive view. I see a role for assistive AI where rather than fully replace humans, empower them to make better decisions, right? Sort through the 99.9% of decisions that they don't have to manually make, and really empower the people to make, to do higher order work or higher order decisions. So I see that kind of assistive AI as some, a big part of our future, something that we're continuing to invest in. But coupled with that is sort of maybe an ethical angle to AI, right? Because just having the AI be able to do the work can introduce a lot of ethical dilemmas. And we've seen, I'm not going to name them, but we've seen some missteps with AI making decisions based on negative trends in society, feeding them AI engines, and then kind of propagating behaviors that we don't want to see an AI make. So I think being able to retrace why AIs are making decisions, combating some of those kind of trend lines is important. But there's a lot of work, I think, beyond just the technology, infusing the ethics into the AI that's kind of the forefront of our minds.
Fantastic. I think I learned two perspectives which was not running in my mind before: assistive AI and ethical AI. So these are the two good terms you introduced to me. So that triggers another question in my mind, right? Because now the businesses are all going virtual, right? Technology is more than ever used in this market. Now, more and more businesses going online, people are going to trust through data. They are going to buy if they trust the company, and the company can be trusted with data. And that's when the AI role comes in, and then the trust comes in, and the trust brings in more revenue to the platform, right? So I won't go too deep into those trust debate, data and trust and privacy and cyber attack. That's a big topic by itself, but that triggers another point in my mind. Where do you guys see voice coming into picture? Because I attended certain Gartner and few other conferences in the past, and analysts have certain prediction about consumer behavior changing. So bringing the power of voice in your enterprise landscape and give better experiences to customers. So do you guys have any take on voice?
Rajesh, can I interject on the last point regarding trust? Because I think that was an important point that you were making. It's something that we don't see as much of in the US, besides maybe California, but we see a lot of it in Europe. If you've maybe applied for a mortgage or refinance lately, you may have typically where your HR department would issue a letter kind of verifying your employment, providing your salary. You've seen a trend where that's become, it's put in the hands of the consumer, where you may now have to issue a PIN to provide to your lender for them to be able to access your data, your employment history, things that are personal to you. That model I see gaining some legs, right? The idea that here in the US, somebody can have my account number and direct debit my checking account, or they're very easily be able to pull money from my account, where we're moving to models elsewhere in the world where you have to go to the consumer for their consent, right? You have to get consumer consent for their data. The consumer can revoke consent for that data. You need consumer consent for a payment. Things that you don't see in every interaction here in the U.S. I think you're starting to see that the ownership of data shift back to the consumer. So I'm kind of anticipating that kind of trend in the future. So you jog my memory when you brought it up.
Yeah, and in the beginning you did mention about hyper personalization, right? So it's all linked with that, right? How do you give the power in the hands of consumer to make the decision what they want, whether they, so absolutely, I think it is linked with your previous point as well. So thank you for throwing a light on that. Any thoughts you guys have on voice, or apart from voice, any other new technology which you guys are reading about, which you would like to bring in future or consider as a part of your innovation lab, which you would like to experiment?
Yeah, not so much voice, but using AI for chatbots and stuff like that is definitely a model that we're, natural language processing, I guess, right, is something we're interested in, right? The models, seem to clearly appeal to so to some segment of the population. So we want to engage customers in any way that they want to be engaged.
Right. Great. So I would give this is the last round or last part of our session. We have to conclude in another 5 minutes. So I would like you guys to have an opportunity for a minute. If anything else is flashing in your mind, which you would like to share with our audience based on what we talked in the first segment, so far in pandemic, what we have done, where we are headed, anything else running in your mind which you would like to share as a concluding remark to our audience?
Rajesh, just for me, I'll just come back to the culture discussion. Invest in culture. Don't underestimate the value of systems and process. Methodologies like Scrum and Agile. It's one thing to have great tools in the toolbox, and it's definitely intriguing. But it's only really valued when it's applied, when you're able to apply it timely and appropriately to fit business strategy. So as much as I know this is a technology forum, don't underestimate culture and system process in really leveraging technology. That would be kind of my thoughts as I think back through it.
Absolutely. People cannot be ignored. People is the foundation for anything what becomes successful. So.
Yeah, no, that was look. We've had pandemic in our DR BCP plan forever, right? I think probably every DR BCP plan has it, right? But it's kind of different when you run it at scale, right? And I think that's the thing. You can say, hey, remote access works, everything's good, right? And it's a bit more complicated than that when the entire company needs to adopt it. So yeah, I think you if you're looking at DRBCP plans, I think the question is how do can you extrapolate it to a scenario like COVID, right? Where it needs to apply around the world with all your employees in every office, right, for an extended period of time. Right? So, we our DRBCP test would not have hit that otherwise.
Excellent. Mohammed, what's your concluding remarks?
Yeah, I think that the point that sticks in my mind, it was about the pivots that happened during COVID and the question that came in about how do you pivot effectively. Because the mantra that sticks in my mind is I'm fully convinced that my strategy is right, but I am open to being wrong on it, right? And planning to being wrong. And with that, building products and services kind of in a modular fashion so that you can rapidly reassemble them as needed. I think that's some of what we had going into it. Definitely a lesson learned to do more of that, planning our future kind of product strategies, because I see the companies that are best positioned to pivot going forward, I think, come out of the pandemic in better shape.
Great point. So I think what I heard from you is this pandemic endorsed your strategy, gave you the confidence that works, and now you are in the mode of leveraging the power what worked and create new opportunities. I see a lot of great shout from Barry. He has mentioned a couple of good points. Hyper machine learning. And there was another point he was mentioning where I forgot the statement, reborn and born on disruption, some topic, and I liked it. So anyway, we have to conclude our session today. And the way I would like to conclude what ran in my mind as you guys spoke, I tried to put that on 3 axes as a mantra to be given to our audience today. And whether they like it, they don't like it, it's their choice. They can throw it. But that's what I, concluded and extracted from this discussion. So I'm putting on X-axis platform strategy. Unless until you have a hybrid, multiple platform, complete ecosystem in place, it's very difficult to respond back faster. So platform, business platform strategy is key. On a Y-axis, I put innovation, automation, augmentation, because there were a lot of points you guys talked about, data, automation, innovation. That is critical to the business, and business will change, bring new ideas, you have to have y-axis to respond back. And finally today what we discovered, and Ian was big proponent of that point, on a z-axis, and even Mohammed, culture, people, human asset. You can have fantastic business platform, you can have a great method of doing innovation culture, unless until you marry that with the third axis Z, which is your human asset, one cannot be set for exponential growth. In the world as we move on in 2021, companies are not going to be growing with a linear scale. You need to grow. You cannot grow 5%, 7%. There will be a smarter player emerging in your business. They will have exponential growth model, and they will come up with a disruptive platform, disruptive ideas, and they will take your market share. Before they take the market share, we need to be ahead in the market and be the disruptor. So don't get disrupted, be the disruptor. And with that note, I will conclude the session. And I would like to hand this session back to Yessi. But before that, thank you, Rich, Ian, Mohammed, joining this excellent conversation. Every time I meet with you guys, have my personal meeting with you or group meetings, I always learn a lot. I did learn quite a new things, good points in today's session. So thank you for this mind share. And also thank you, Jasmine, Aaron, Dan, for providing this excellent platform for interacting with your audience. Yessi, back to you.
Thanks, Rajesh, and hello again, everyone. As a huge thank you for supporting our friends and partners at Tech United, and of course for participating in our forum today, we are extending a very special offer. All Propelify attendees will be eligible to receive free consultation sessions with our in-house digital transformation experts. To add to that, we will also be offering 6 months free on our Fulcrum One business platform, customizable for any business initiatives, and 6 months free on any of our food service products, which includes our culinary suite food service specific platform, FD Signage and FD Meal Planner. Just the consultation serves as a digital transformation strategy session is usually thousands of dollars in business value. So I'd highly recommend taking advantage of this unique opportunity. If you have any questions, meet me at our expo booth. I'll be there along with some of my colleagues today and tomorrow to discuss all things digital transformation and how we can become your partners in business growth. I do hope you enjoyed our forum today. And as Rajesh said, I want to thank you all for joining us today. I also want to give a special thanks to our panelists for an invigorating discussion, and another very special thanks to Tech United for hosting and allowing us to join in on all the fun in Propelify this week. Please enjoy the rest of the event, everyone, and have a wonderful day. Thanks.
And as Aaron says, Aaron always, I saw him giving high fives. So why don't we end with that? And hopefully, yes, you can capture the picture and send it to him. So guys, on a count of 1, 2, 3, we will give a high five on the screen. 1, 2, 3. Bye, guys. Thank you. See you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.